Talk to us about how unprecedented this is.
Well, it's unprecedented on a number of levels, the most obvious being that no president has ever been subject to this type of raid. It's also rare under this particular law. The Presidential Records Act is not a heavily enforced law. It is rarely used for criminal prosecution. Indeed, even in the most egregious past cases, punishment has been relatively light. You know, you had the Sandy Berger case, yes, where you had the former national security advisor who removed material in his socks. It was clearly intentional. He dropped it at a spot where he could recover it later. And Berger didn't serve any jail time. He didn't even have his clearance permanently removed. He was allowed to plead to a misdemeanor. So it's a little bit of a disconnect to see this type of heavy-handed raid occurring. But then there's finally the question of why. I mean, the Trump family insists that it has said that they could go through boxes and go through material upon request. Somebody's obviously lying here. It's hard to believe that a judge signed off on this if the FBI said, yeah, we could go in there with a subpoena with no problem. The assumption is that there was a suggestion that documents could be destroyed unless the raid was allowed to go forward.
Professor, a couple things here. In January, the National Archives retrieved 15 boxes of material from Mr. Trump. And in Trump's statement last night, he talked about the cooperation that he was affording law enforcement. So we're trying to put one and two together here, right? Meanwhile, Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, MSNBC last night, said this. Just roll it here.
Well, I don't want to politicize it because I think Attorney General Garland and the Justice Department have done a very good job by following the facts. I do think that this gives me confidence that the Justice Department is really pursuing this thoroughly, objectively, and in a non-political way.
Okay, to that, I guess you could say, how would he know? And I think the only way we would know is if Merrick Garland comes out and explains what's happening. I would expect to hear from him today. Yeah. Would you?
I would hope so. The Justice Department does not reveal details on ongoing cases, but this is unique, and there is a great deal of unease. After all, the FBI has a documented history of people with bias against the former president. It has a checkered history of false representations, even outright lies in the Russian collusion case. You've had high-ranking FBI officials saying that they had an insurance policy against Trump becoming president last time. You can't ignore all of that. I mean, there are legitimate concerns among Trump supporters that this seems like another insurance policy. Now, that doesn't mean that it's true, but there's a lot of questions here. For example, after those 15 boxes were recovered by the archives, did they convey to the president that they had ongoing concerns, or send an itemized list, or indicated they believed documents remained on the premises that had to be turned in? Those are the type of basic details we'd like to know. I mean, did the president just refuse those inquiries? That's not what the family is saying.